Welcome back to the No Gray Areas podcast and to part 2 of our 3-part mini-series with Motiversity guru, Coach Payne. If you thought part 1 challenged your comfort zones, get ready, because today we're talking about the inner war we all face in our minds. Coach Payne breaks down how the battles you fight internally shape the way you show up in the world, and why confronting your fears is so essential in today's world. This episode is all about mastering the space between your ears. So let's jump into it. Coach Payne, welcome back to the No Gray Areas podcast. We're on episode 2 or week 2 of 2026. We're doing this mini series. Last week, we talked about the comfort crisis. This week, we want to talk about the inner war. So I want to ask you right up front, do you agree or disagree with this statement? One of the greatest battles that we often fight is in the space between our ears, not in the world.
Definitely in between our ears, 100%. It's that war that's inside of you. You question yourself, you doubt yourself, you don't trust yourself. It's so many things that goes on inside of our heads as human beings that the world don't have to crucify you. You can crucify yourself first.
And we do it all the time,
All the time. I'm guilty of it. I think we all go through that. Like I said, human beings are human beings. We're all human. No one is perfect. I think at a time, there comes a time where you have to get the self-love thing on. You know, you have to know. And I'm not saying that selfishness mentality, like I can care less what the world thinks.
Yeah, there's a difference between self-love and selfishness, right? I'm glad you brought that up.
I don't like that. I hate when people say that stuff. You know, I can care less what the world thinks. You should care what the world thinks because you have to live in it. You know, how do you survive without the world?
Yeah.
You know, you can't be out there.
To an extreme, someone who says, I don't care what the world thinks is a sociopath.
Exactly right. Yeah, I mean, that just sounds crazy. But you have to have a certain point in your life where you got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
You know, because nobody is, honestly, I'm going to be real with you, nobody's coming to save you, man. It really comes back down to you just saying, look, here's the situation.
Yeah.
Here's what I need to do. Now, what am I going to do about it?
The audience has probably all heard this statement or this phrase, I found the enemy and the enemy is me.
That's right.
And that's what we're describing here, is that as we move into 2026, it's so important for us to realize that one of the greatest enemies we're going to have for our growth this year is between our ears.
It's us.
Is our thoughts, our inner thinking.
That's right.
Right?
The mind is a dangerous place.
Yeah.
It is, man. The mind is a saying. I'm sure you've heard this too. The mind is the devil's workshop.
The mind is the devil's workshop. Yep. That's why the Bible actually says there's that verse that Paul wrote 2,000 years ago, this philosopher and theologian. He said, take every thought captive.
Absolutely.
And that right there, as we move into 2026, because you're saying, you know, it's the devil's playground.
That's right.
And that's why Paul 2,000 years ago said, every time there's a thought or an inner voice, you're talking to yourself, grab onto that, take that captive, and then ask yourself, is this true or is this a lie?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, you can destroy your own identity. You can destroy your own, you know, goal and what you want to achieve and go beyond it. And again, we've all been there. We've all felt the sense of losing and giving up and no one loves me. I don't love myself, whatever. But I believe there's a point in time you have to just accept the fact you wasn't created for nothing. You know, there's a reason why you living.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to tap into that truth because, you know, speaking from a believer's perspective, you know, I believe in my heart God takes care of his children.
Yeah.
Like you as a parent, like me as a parent. But as parents, we teach our children lessons. Yeah. And I believe that he does that for us as well. I also believe that we have to understand that he's not in the business to abandon us. He's there to guide us and teach us. We just have to believe that. And sometimes we lose our way. Sometimes we find other things to believe in. We believe in the things that are hurting us more so than the things that can help us.
That's so true.
It
often,
is.
Isn't it? Yeah, we believe in the things that hurt us more than we
believe in the things that can help us. Because we always say, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I'll believe it when I see it. Where's my faith? Faith gets tampered with a lot.
Yeah, it does.
It's always being challenged a lot. We can't see it, therefore I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So I ain't gonna believe it
Yeah.
because I can't see it. And I think that's the dangerous place to be mentally. So that spirit got to be on fire, though. I think that's the challenge too. I think our spirituality is lost more so because we believe more in the flesh than the spirit.
Yeah.
And I think Christ said that when he was in the garden, and he said, you know, the flesh, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it is. I mean, the flesh is weak. I mean, we really spend too much time on the external of who we are, but we forget about our internal.
Isn't there, now you quoted the Bible, and I'm going to quote Rocky IV.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked out so many times when I was younger to that. Remember that montage where he's out in
that's
the,
my
and he's in the
favorite.
snow? Oh, yeah.
That's my
But
favorite Rocky.
there was one of the songs, and there's a line in the song. I don't remember which one in all those
I
Rocky
can
movies.
tell you what it
but
is.
it says, the body cries stop, but the spirit says never, something like that, right?
Oh,
Did I get it right?
Yeah.
But it's similar
I
to
know
what.
it now. I don't remember exactly that. I don't want to mess that up. But I think I do know what you're talking about. And that is just No Easy Way Out.
Yeah,
That's the song.
That's
No
the
Easy
song.
Way Out.
You're right. You nailed the
No
song.
Easy Way Out. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
like the go-to song, you know?
But it's what, and you were referencing what Jesus said 2,000 years ago. It was in the Rocky song, and it is very true that as we move into 2026, we need to realize that the flesh is weak.
It is.
And the mind is the devil's playground so often.
But the
so
spirit.
but the spirit,
The devil can't touch it.
yeah.
The spirit belongs to
Which
God.
is why Paul said to take every thought captive, which is going to be work. Audience, please hear this. Studies show that we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts every single day.
Yep.
So if I'm going to take every thought captive, it's going to take some discipline. It's going to take some work on my part, because I know the audience is probably like me, where I've spent so much of my life just kind of rolling through and not paying attention to what my inner voice was saying.
Yeah.
When I started paying attention to what I was saying to myself, I remember Coach Payne one time when I sat down, I thought I would never put up with anybody talking to my wife the way I talk to myself internally. I would never put up to someone telling me what I tell myself sometimes in my head, in my mind.
Right. Well, a lot of times it comes back, it's like, I use this as an example, when we tell our kids to do something, and my kids are adults now, but they won't necessarily listen to you as the parent, but let someone else
Yes.
tell them
Yes.
something. They're like,
especially when they're
"Mom,"
teenagers.
right?
Yes.
You know, and it's so natural to do that because they don't want to hear nothing you got to say, right? And sometimes your spouse could be like that. My wife doesn't always want to hear what I got to say. I don't want to hear everything she got to say. But we'll
someone
hear
else
from
says
someone
it.
else said, then it's a very common thing, I think, that we do. But back to the whole mind thing, the psyche of the brain itself, it is something that, again, well put together. It's what we do with it and how we perceive it. We are definitely our own enemy, and sometimes we just don't know how to get out of our way. And sometimes we can let outside interference come in and feed that mind and make it even more dangerous. You know, you have to learn how to reverse it. You have to understand that it's not always meant for you to win. It's not always meant for you to be on the top of your game. It's not always meant for you not to have a bad day. But you got to know that this thing called life shows up. Life says to you, I'm going to show you something. You ready? You ready? Here it comes. That's how life works. It is so unpredictable. And it will literally look you in the face and say, you ready?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
And now you got to go through it. And once life put it out there, it won't take it back. In fact, life won't apologize. Life is probably the only thing I can say that will never apologize to you.
It doesn't. That's actually philosophically, that's a fascinating concept.
It will never apologize.
It's never going to say,
It never
hey,
says, I'm sorry.
sorry that storm hit today.
Never going to tell you I'm sorry. You lose something,
Yep.
we say it. That's life.
Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah.
It's always, that's life.
Yep.
That's life. Life is running everything.
Yeah.
You leave this world, someone else is born.
Yep.
10 people leave this world, 20 more people are born. It never stops.
Yeah.
It is the most amazing experience that any living thing can experience.
Well, and what's so cool, and you're tying this right into kind of the theme of this podcast, is the power and complexity of human choice. That
Yes, sir.
we believe that humans are created as the pinnacle of God's creation. We're the only thing that are created in His image. And like you said, life is so beautiful. But what God did with that is He gave us the power of choice.
That's right.
That we make our choices, and eventually our choices make us. But when we back up before choices, and that's what we're talking about in this episode, it goes back to our thinking. That a lot of time our choices are products of what we've been thinking or what's been going on between our two ears, or what we've been allowing ourselves to think. That's the key that I want our audience to hear, allowing to think, right? Because what you're trying to say, Coach Payne, is you have power over what you allow yourself to think or the way you think. But most of us don't take control of that.
No.
So let me ask you a question.
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode so far. Be sure to like and subscribe to not miss a future podcast. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
How do you recognize when it's really you standing in your own way and not someone else or something else?
You get too tied up into yourself. You're in your own head. That's what I like to say. I think people say that often. You got to get out of your head. You know, get out of your head. Stop singing. Stop thinking. Stop believing in the things that are holding you down. It's not the things that are holding you down. It's the things that you allow to manifest in your mind to hold you down.
Wow.
And when you do that, it puts you in this perspective of thinking that you're worthless.
Yeah.
I've been there. I mean, like I said, I'm not this guy that has not been hurt. I'm not this guy that doesn't feel less. I'm not this guy.
Doesn't have self-doubt at times.
I've been there. I know what is. I get it. I understand. There are a lot of people out there that are lost and they don't know where they're going with their lives. I get it. I don't know my purpose. The first thing I always tell people, when you say you don't know your purpose, I promise you, I know your purpose better than you. You were born. There it is right there. Your purpose, you were born.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do?
Yeah.
There's a path we all have to travel. And make no mistake, it ain't going to be easy. Yeah. Like I said, there are people that are born into certain situations where they're comfortable or they have the luxury of not having to work, not having to do anything. You have people say, I do these things so my children will never have to work hard. Why?
Worst thing you could do for them. Worst thing you could do for them.
Why are you doing this to your child? Why are you crippling your child?
Yeah.
Why are you crippling people? Listen, hey, look, I did this. Now you're going to do this. In fact, like when my kids would say, one day I'm going to be like my dad. No, don't be like me. Be better than me. Yeah. You don't ever want to be like anybody. Be yourself, man. Be you. And learn how to get out of your way. You know, even now, you know, sometimes I have those moments. You know, I feel like, man, this isn't why, and you question it, but then you have to go back to the other side of the coin and say, you know what am I gonna do now? Because no matter how much I wallow in this, if I just lay around and just, you know, running around with like a chicken with his head cut off. You're not gonna get anywhere. It's just you gotta do something. Look, I could sit here and whine and moan and cry all day long, but it's not gonna change anything.
You know, Coach Payne, because I grew up in rural Montana. We actually butchered chickens. So when people use that phrase that you just used, running around like a chicken with its head cut off, I've actually seen that.
Yeah.
And in fact, that was my job when we butchered chickens. Is I had to catch the one when it was flopping around and everything. Yeah. But there's no purpose to it. It's kind of your point. It's just running. And that's what ends up is we move into 2026. If we're not careful and we're not taking captive our thoughts, if we're not really wrestling with what am I telling myself internally, we end up living life like that chicken flopping around, meaningless.
It's a good point, which is just a good way of looking at that. Like you said, chicken with his head cut off. The chicken's running around. But it has no sense of direction because it has no head.
It's just flopping, running.
It's just flopping around, and eventually it will die.
And again,
that's how we are as human beings.
Yeah,
we get in that position. We
just go through 2020, and it's another year, and we missed all the things that we could have.
Let
me ask you another question here, because I think this is really a key one that I'm sure a lot of our audience is wrestling with.
Yeah.
When we talk about our inner thoughts or our inner speech, our inner thinking, how do we separate who I am and who I can become? Because what happens for a lot of times is people start to use, I think people start to use this as an excuse. It's like, well, this is just who I am, you know, but they're missing then who they could become. Like maybe that is who you are today, but that doesn't mean that's who you always have to be.
Correct.
So how do you separate those?
I think that's a great question, great questions. And I would say this. First off, when people say that's just who I am, that doesn't mean you have to be that person, right? Sometimes you got to know how to turn that off. It's like I would say to people, it's like, I stand on my business. Standing on my business doesn't mean that I can't, tweak some things to adapt to an environment. I don't take this, I won't accept that, but there is a way to have an even ground where there's some compromising there. You know what I mean? Where we can come together and think one accord and compromise and work together. The person that is looking, like what you mentioned about the future, like, what I want to be or where I'm looking to become. But what I am now will kind of give me the roadmap to where I want to be in my life. If the roadmap is not designed a certain way, let's say you're the architect of building something, you can't build something without a plan, like in most cases. And with that being said, if there's no sense of direction, then how can you obtain this future that you're looking to get to if you don't even know where you are as a person right now? So you can't hop, skip, and jump to something when you don't even have a foundation where you are as a person right now.
I love your answer because what you're saying is both are important, right?
Yes.
You're saying that there is some truth to saying who I am today or where I am today because that's how you build.
Yes,
you
sir.
build with what you have.
Yes, sir.
But then not using what you're saying, though, is then not using that as an excuse to go, well, this is what I am, and I can't build anything
Doesn't
from
work
this.
like that.
Yeah. So having both of those.
Yes.
I like that.
Well, you have to. I mean, like I said, again, I'm going back and forth with things that we've discussed in the past. It's that mentality of I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
Stop thinking like that. Become a morning person.
Yeah.
Start there. It's inside of you that will determine what the outcome will be in the universe.
And to use what you just said
Yes.
to explain, when someone says I'm not a morning person, going back to what we were saying, it may be true then starting with like maybe I have a harder time in the mornings than the person over here.
Okay.
That's fine. That's my starting point then. That's what I'm going to build from.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's an excuse to go like, well,
No.
I'm going to treat people poorly in the morning because
No.
I'm not a morning person. I'm not
No.
going to get up on
No.
time.
No.
Yeah.
Again,
Exactly.
A lot of people paid a toll to cross the bridge thinking that way. Let me just say it that way. You can't go in the world blaming the world because you're having a bad day. It's not the world's fault that your day is what it is. You manifest what you manifest and it becomes what it becomes. I'm not saying that you don't have a right to be angry at times. I'm not saying that you don't have a right to cry at times. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a disagreement at times. But where is the margin? How far is this going to take you? And again, back to that inner beast, inner battle, inner person. What I control is what I can control. I can't control everybody else, but I can control what I do and how I respond. My greatest enemy is within me, not the enemy outside of me. It's what's inside that would determine the outcome of whatever I want to be. I have to really believe that. And sometimes the enemy will play tricks on your brain. Sometimes other people outside of that will play tricks on you and make you feel that you're less when you're so much more. Sometimes people will look down on you and you will believe that. You will think because everybody thinks you're less, you start to believe that. I've been there. I used to think that. I thought, well, maybe I'm not, maybe I should, maybe this, maybe that. And I start believing in the people and they had nothing to do with my birth. They didn't bring me in this world. Why am I believing in this when I should believe in myself?
And that's what you said before, where the mind can trick you if you're not
Yeah.
careful. The other thing that you just brought up that I think is so good, and as we kind of come toward the end of this episode and wrap it up, you mentioned something to this effect. If the battle is inside of us, then the good news is the weapons are too.
Yes.
Because you just kind of mentioned that where you're saying
Yes.
like, hey, man, if this is where the battle, if the enemy's inside there, then I also have. And audience, please, for those who are Jesus followers, I'm not talking about humanism here. Some people would be like, aren't you getting into humanism? No. I believe that God created us, again, what I said before, is the pinnacle of his creation. He created us and gave us these tools that we can use, that he's asked us to use. And that's what we're talking about in this episode, that our enemy is right here in between our ears, and we have what it takes to fight that too.
Absolutely. Listen, again, I never will ever question people's beliefs. One thing I've learned in life is that people are going to stand on what they believe in. I'm a believer, no shame. But I am my Father's son, and I know who created me, and I know why I breathe, and I know why I walk. I didn't wake myself up this morning. God gave me the life that I have.
Good word.
He put it in my heart to get up. He put it in my ears to get up. He gave me the eyes that I can see, the legs for me to walk, for me to make the decisions, the will to live. And that's me. That's not me telling you what to believe. I'm telling you that's how I function. I can't function without him.
Yeah.
So people need to really understand what that means. So when you have this trickery going on inside of your head to make you feel less of yourself, remind yourself, I am my Father's child. And if you don't believe that, then believe in something that made you what you think you may be. But you didn't wake yourself up today. Someone did. Someone loved you enough to get you up out of that bed. I just think it's just a bigger picture. It's a bigger spectrum of things in life in general. I think we have gotten so consumed, again, with the worldly things, and the spiritual reality of things have kind of left the building. And we depend so much on just us and not things that are greater than us. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people forget that. Like you got to know that just because that computer was built by a man, who gave him the idea to build it? Just because that car is functional the way it is, who gave them the idea to build that vehicle? We are not responsible for what we have been given. We are responsible for what we have. We are responsible, but what has been given to us had to come from something greater than me. I didn't make that sun shine. I didn't make that moon shine at night. I didn't make those stars. I didn't make those birds sing. I didn't make that tree grow. But somebody gave me the idea to make a seed, or to plant a seed to grow another one. There's so many amazing things about us as human beings, but we have to have the ability to plant a seed within ourselves to better ourselves. We are
and
very
God gave
amazing
us that.
Man,
He gave us that opportunity.
We are
to
so
do that.
amazing. Yeah. Humans are so amazing. Like I said, I may say things about our laziness and our discomfort and things like that, but we also have amazing abilities too. We just got to know how to tap into it.
I want to just pause, though, and not miss something you said. Most of our audience are Jesus followers, not all of them, and that's okay. And you just mentioned something. When we're talking about this inner war, this inner battle with our thoughts, I think it's the single most important thing that you can believe as a human being. When you said, I'm my Father's son, or if you're a woman, I'm my Father's daughter.
That's right.
That right there will have a bigger impact on that inner battle.
That's right.
Than anything else that you can believe. If you truly believe that you're your father's son, and he's crazy about you. He's so crazy about you. Like you woke up this morning and he was so excited that his son, Coach Payne, was going to do another day.
That's right.
If we would, and I don't think most of us believe that deep down in our soul.
That's the problem. It's that we depend too much on ourselves and not tap. When people say, again, I don't know my purpose, and I always come back to your purpose was being born. Now you have to build on that purpose. You was not created for nothing. There is a reason that you exist. Now you have to deter yourself from all of these negative things that are surrounding you and putting you in a position to make you think less of yourself.
You know that you don't even realize it probably, but you keep quoting this theologian and philosopher from 2,000 years ago named Paul. So one of my favorite passages, and I mean it this time, for people that used to listen to me preach, I would joke about that all the time.
Yeah.
But Ephesians 2:10 says, for we are God's workmanship. That's the English. It was written 2,000 years ago in Greek. The word that workmanship that's translated is poema. That's where we get the word poem. So literally what he's saying is we are God's poem. We are God's symphony. We are God's work of art, his book. And then it goes on, he says, created in Christ Jesus to do good works.
He works through us.
Yes, he works through us, in us.
All of us are messengers.
And the fact that we were born gives us a purpose.
All of us are messengers. The sad part is that the enemy does what he does. He puts us in a position where we hate, we denounce, we pour down, we tear down instead of building up. We are at war. Like you said, war within ourselves, within our society. The people that you think got your back don't really have your back. It can go on and on and on. But get to a point where you don't depend so much on just yourself. Get to a point where you don't necessarily depend on people. You got to find a higher power, man.
Yeah.
You got to, because there is something that is special about all of us. There's something that is unique about all of us, and we have to stand on that, and we have to believe in that. And even when those doubts come in and that fear comes in and all of those negative things, which we're all guilty of, get back to the source and say, look, I have to believe that God brought me this far for a reason, and he is not wasting time to bring me this far to give up on me. There is something that I gotta do.
Yeah.
I just gotta tap into it. And again, it's not I'm not a religious person. I'm a believer. I understand that there's a mission for all of us. I believe that we live for a reason. I believe the air that we breathe is for a reason. But your reason is not to be miserable. And I'm not saying that there's some things that are not happening in our society that's bad, but when you have the ability to get up, man, get up and make a difference in your life.
What a great way to start 2026 with a message like that.
As we're wrapping up this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment on something you'll take away. All right, let's hop back into the remainder of the episode.
We're wanting to finish each of these episodes that we're doing this 3-part mini-series together, and we want to finish each of them with a challenge. And last week, the challenge was do something that makes you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. This week, our challenge around this idea of the inner war is we want to say, write down the 3 to 5 word epitaph that you would love to be on your gravestone that described who you were as a person. So audience, take a little bit of time and think through. If someone were to write down 3 to 5 words that described how you lived your life, what would those be? And then live this week that way. So for me, an example, I thought about this back when I was in my 20s, and I've tried to live this way. I hope someday on my gravestone, people would simply write these words: he loved God and he loved people. That's it. That's all I want them to say. So this week, I want to live in such a way that if people looked at me, they'd say, he loves God and he loves people. So I want to encourage our audience to do the same, to write down 3 to 5 words. It may be completely different what I just said, but what is that epitaph that you want on your tombstone? And then live this week. Make sure that you're thinking the way that would have you live that way. So, Coach Payne, thanks for being on again. How do people get a hold of you? I want to make sure, you're on YouTube. We talked about this last week, but I want to hit it again. Coach Payne, P-A-I-N.
P-A-I-N on YouTube. Definitely, you can find me there. I'm actually on Spotify, believe it or not. You can find me on Spotify. But yeah, Instagram, Coach Payne Academy. Our gym is in Gilbert, Arizona. Our training method is basically more military, first responder training methods, but we encourage all civilians to participate in this training method. We believe in practical fitness.
Yes.
Not just get in the gym, how many curls, how much I bench press. Nothing against that, but we believe in just longevity fitness, lifestyle fitness, getting people to understand that adapting to the life that has been given and being able to challenge themselves both mentally and physically. That's what the Coach Payne Academy is all about. Very family-oriented, of course, and we welcome all levels of fitness. So come on out. And last but not least, Command Cycle Studio. We only been open about 5 or 6 months now, still building up that status there. And again, amazing instructors we have there. And what we want to bring to the community is to get people to just come out, have a good time, and enjoy the ride. Yeah. And that's what it's about. So Command Cycle Studio.
Looks like you guys have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I follow you on Instagram.
With command.com.
Yeah.
It's a great experience. I too teach a couple of classes here and there, but we have some amazing young ladies there that really bring some noise, and I love their energy. And we're hoping that we can get more people to come out and support. Yeah. That's also too in Gilbert, Arizona as well. Believe it or not, it's on the east side of the building. I don't actually have forgive me if I don't know the exact address. Yeah. Maybe on the next episode I'll bring that up.
Well, if they find Coach Payne, because I've been there. If they find your studio, it's right next door.
Right on the east side of the building.
Audience, if you live in the Phoenix area, in the East Valley especially, you got to go check this out. I'm telling you, I've said this a couple of times. Yeah. I've been following you for years.
Thank
You've
you.
gotten me through some of my toughest workouts. You are a
Thank you.
motivator. Love it.
Thank you.
So go check out Coach Payne on YouTube. Go
Yes,
check
sir.
out, if you're here in Phoenix, check out his gym and his studio and his Instagram page as well.
you.
So thank you. And we'll see you next week for episode 3 of our mini-series. Thank you, Coach
Thank
Payne.
you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to part 2 of our mini-series with Coach Payne. On our third and final episode, we'll shift gears into the one more mentality, how refusing to quit can change the trajectory of your path. If this episode resonated with you, leave a 5-star review or share it with someone who needs to hear this. We'll see you next week for the final part of our mini-series with Coach Payne.